Morning, everybody. So we're working on a collaboration video, I guess, with Chuck at Panzer platform. I've missed out on the last couple of these because they weren't, well, they just didn't really fit with what we had going on, because I think Chuck did one on what's in your trunk, and Isaac's trunk it's empty. Well, it has a spare tire and a jack, and maybe some old drug residue or something, but that's pretty much all that's in there. And then we missed out on the interior one because, well, it's pretty much a stripped out stock police interceptor interior with the rubber floor still. But anyways, Isaac's gonna work with me on following Chuck's to-do list here, which is good because it should help to keep things on track. I'm going to try and make this so I don't have to edit the hell out of it, because that kind of gets old after a bit. So there, yeah, you can see our stock cop car interior, worn out floor. We still got some stuff to do in there. So as far as modifications, we haven't really done anything to this. This car's pretty low miles, although it does have super high idle hours. I wasn't too concerned about that, and not sure that I exactly buy into all the hype that high idle hours means your car has 1,000,000 miles on it. But if it does, it sure does run really good. I think Isaac's got like 65,000 miles or something like that now. Somewhere's in there. Okay, so kind of running down the list. Isaac can, of course, chime in whenever he wants to. When he wins the lottery, we'll be able to do all kinds of stuff with this thing. Okay, so one of the first things Chuck was asking about is, do you have any performance add-ons? As far as the engine is concerned, I would say absolutely none. Isaac did want to change out the mufflers, so of course we did that. It's not really, I wouldn't consider it a super performance add-on by anything. Heck, it might not even have done anything. But he's got a pair of MagnaFlow MagnaPacks that are on the car, and it sounds really good. I would say sound being the key thing, not performance. The engine is essentially bone stock. It's 2011. I know Mod Motors had their fair share of problems back in the late 90s, and kind of got a deserving reputation there for a bit. But I think after, well, it would have been exactly 15 years, hopefully they got a lot of those bugs worked out of them, and these things have become really, really reliable. So really, geez, as far as repairs under the hood, I think the only thing that we had to do, and it's not even engine related, it's just under the hood. The washer pump was dead when we got it. So that was a easy, like, I don't know, I think it was $15 repair.
And the oil filter.
Yes, we did change the oil. These, as some of you may or may not know, these engines have a tendency to kind of rattle or clack quite a bit when you start them up, especially cold start. And so it had a non-Motorcraft oil filter on it, and we just, through experimentation, we changed and put the Motorcraft filter back on it. And while it still does it every once in a while, I don't think it's as bad. I think it makes a difference. So I don't know if it's part of the timing chain tensioning system, I've heard, or if it is could be partly an oil drain back thing. So going down the list a little bit, no real upgrades per se at this time. No repairs, nothing fixed. We have probably personally put, I think, not quite 5,000 miles on this car since we got it. And obviously with all the coronavirus stuff going around, this car hasn't been being driven. It hasn't been driven as much as it was prior. So I think our immediate future plans are we need to go through and just do basic tune-up stuff. Like I said earlier, car has about 65,000 miles on it. I wouldn't be surprised if the spark plugs are original. So we're going to get those changed. We have the stuff to do it. And air filter, it's really pretty basic at this amount of miles. I will say that when Isaac drives it back and forth to school, which is only a couple of miles, this thing gets absolutely horrible gas mileage. But it should be. I don't think there's anything wrong with the car. It's just that it's stop and go for 4 or 5 miles a day. And
hills.
It is kind of hilly around here. And I would say that Isaac probably averages about
200 on a
very, very good run. He can get 200 miles out of a tank. And so we'll get the plugs changed and put a fresh air filter in it and see if we can get him another mile to the gallon, but I'm not optimistic. When I drive it back and forth to work, I can get just over 20. And it's still not ideal conditions. So that'll be upcoming maintenance as far as the engine is concerned. We have not exactly under the hood, but kind of under the hood. The transmission will occasionally drip on the ground. That's only seems to really happen after the car's been sitting for a long period of time, like 4 or 5 days plus. It'll leave a little bit of fresh transmission fluid on the ground, which I can't quite figure out, but if you drive it every day, it doesn't seem to leave anything on the ground. My worst fear is that it's the torque converter seal, or the front pump seal, excuse me, because these cars it's not fun to take the transmission out of these cars, even to take it part way out, just enough to get the converter out. But that's something that we will be addressing probably sometime this summer. Now, as far as future plans, boy, that's really up in the air. It's not something that Isaac and I really sit around and daydream about, but I mean, we're not exactly independently wealthy either. I'm sure that Isaac would love to coyote swap this thing. But it's kind of a hard pill to swallow, putting a $5,000 engine in a $2,000 car, plus all the stuff that it's going to take to make it work right. That's a huge job. Honestly, myself, even though I think it's sacrilege, I would rather just LS swap it myself. So you can make just as much power way easier. I mean, there's just no comparison. And the price of LS stuff is dirt cheap. Throw a Holley Terminator X on there, $1,000 junkyard motor, and you could do some pretty crazy things. But this is a perfectly good engine, so unless something fell into our laps or this thing just miraculously blows up, I have a feeling that it's just going to stay with the 2-valve motor for a long time. Or unless Isaac gets a really good paying job. That's when he's buying stuff with his own money, as long as it's not something really I deem really crazy or stupid, then he can do whatever he wants to. We have talked about putting log tubes on it just for kind of a fun, interesting project. I don't know that I would pony up the money for the Stainless Works kit. Don't get me wrong, Stainless Works is a fantastic company. They've been around for a long time and they do a hell of a lot more than just 2-valve Mustang stuff, of course. But yeah, here again, by the time it's all said and done, you've put in an exhaust system that costs almost as much as the car did. But something else that's easier and just fun to tinker with, we could possibly do like a used Vortex supercharger someday. As cheap as I am, it would probably be a modified 2-valve Mustang kit instead of buying the kit that's purpose made for these cars, because it's, here again, it carries an excessive tax for somewhat of a niche market. To go along with what I was saying earlier, I don't know if you saw when we first walked up, we got our part stash. Oops, don't want to drop our plugs. I do want to verify that these spark plugs are in fact real Motorcraft plugs. I'm sure many of you are aware there is a lot of bogus and counterfeit factory parts out there, and it really doesn't matter what brand of vehicle you're working with. But AC Delco and Motorcraft are two that have been hit very hard by the bogus part market. I don't know how that's happened, but yeah, it's not good. It would be one thing if it was a Chinese spark plug that was marketed as a Chinese spark plug, but when they're fully making them bogus in the same packaging that's, you know, intended to be an illusion of the real thing, that's not good. I bought this just as a reminder that that job could be looming. That is a front pump seal for the transmission. We got our filter for the transmission. We got to get that done, and I'm hoping that after I get a look at the pan that it's not that and we can just do the pan. And I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, might have, I can't remember. We did pick up a U-Haul pan. It's not necessary, but they are kind of nice. You can see the only difference to the U-Haul pan versus the stock pan is it has a built-in drain plug. And at that point, you can just dump the fluid out once a year and just top the fluid up after the filter's been changed the first time. And that transmission should last a very long time. Now, one other thing that Isaac's been interested in, and I'm surprised he hasn't brought it up yet, is that if the transmission ever blows up in this car, we're not going to put another one of these I forget what the hell the model number is on this transmission, so don't laugh at me. It's a glorified AOD, basically. But anyways, yeah, Isaac has been expressing interest in manual swap in this car. Of course, all the parts are out there. It can be done if you're thrifty and find good deals at the wrecking yards. It can be done not super expensive. I won't call it cheap, but I won't say it's super expensive either. Compared to a built automatic, I would say it could be done for a pretty good price. But you know, another thing that kind of holds me back a little bit from doing modifications to the factory 2-valve engine is it seems like very little things that you do to this engine requires it to be tuned, and like it has to be tuned. Even doing long tubes, I don't think I would just bolt them on there and hope that the thing just it'll run and it'll drive, I'm assuming. I know most other cars will, but that doesn't mean that it's right either. Manual swap, gotta tune it. I know there's a couple of good mail order tune options that are out there for these cars. That's always a possibility. There's one really popular guy, and that does tuning for these cars, and I know you guys know who it is. I can't remember the name at the moment, but you know, those are all possibilities. But our current intentions are to keep this car drivable and not be we don't want it to turn into that thing where it's often kind of out of commission for months at a time just because I'm playing around with the thing. But the old vet's not a daily driver, so that's not of any great concern. This car we kind of need to keep as a driver, especially once school starts back up, which I'm sure Isaac would be fine with never going to school again, but what kid wouldn't? Hopefully school starts up normally here in the next few months, or after summer I should say. But anyways, it's been fun chatting, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the other videos that are put out. Chuck's got so many Crown Vic buddies, especially on YouTube, of course. It's like I can't keep track of all of them. I watched all of his videos that he did with these are the Crown Vic channels that I watch, and boy, there's a bunch of them I'd never seen before. And even searching for them, it's kind of weird how some channels show up and other channels don't really show up. And But yeah, it'd be a full-time job chasing down all these Crown Vic guys out there. Isaac and I both watch just a metric ton of YouTube, so it consumes a lot of time to begin with. But anyways, yeah, if anybody has any questions or comments about this car, anything about what we've done to it, you fire them away. We do have a handful of videos on this car that have been kind of fun to make. And we have some more coming, so stay tuned for that if anybody's interested. It's nothing groundbreaking or revolutionary, as I like to say. We got to get these headlights changed. We've got some factory ones. We're going to change the steering wheel because it's all rotten and nasty. Carpet, that might get done later this week. Finally, we've been procrastinating on the carpet for the last 5 months, so that's got to get done. And yeah, it'll be fun just making some simple videos. I don't expect them to get a ton of traffic, but I guess that's something I could bring up too real quick is of all the cars that we have on our channel, this Crown Vic is it's one of the better platforms. I gotta say, we've probably done, I'm just gonna guess 30 plus thousand views out of the Crown Vic videos that we've done, which, yeah, that's not very many, but it's a lot compared to some of the stuff that I've done. So sure, there's some famous channels out there that Isaac and I watch that can get 30,000 views in 2 minutes, but that's not going to happen with Mr. Black's channel. Although I will say, and I'm not like super proud of this accomplishment because I haven't put a lot of effort into my YouTube channel, to be honest with you, but we are fixing to hit 200,000 views in the next day or two. That's starting all the way back in either 2007 or 2008. But anyways, that's kind of funny. But anyways, that's enough rambling, and we'll get this video put together and set it up with Chuck. And like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing all the other videos that people are putting out. So that's it for us. Y'all have a good one.